Okay, guys, what is going on? Welcome back to the BTB Fitness Podcast and welcome back to the YouTube channel. In similar fashion to last week, I'm spouting the Yankees beanie because yet again the Yankees make a free agent offseason move since I've last made a YouTube video. So we signed Carlos Rodon to be our starting pitcher. One of our starting pitchers, obviously, which is a huge W in my opinion. I personally think that the Yankees' biggest issue has been their pitching rotation, amongst other things, and the fact we can't fucking beat Houston. So um, the addition of Rodon is awesome. I mean, I was going through Twitter and stuff the other night, and it's kind of somewhat unanimously agreed upon that the best rotation in baseball right now is either the Yankees or the Mets. So kind of funny that both of the predicted best rotations are in New York. The Yankees rotation sounds really scary, man. Garrett Cole, Nestor Cortez really came into his own last year. Obviously, the addition of Rodon, Luis Severino, kind of really coming into his own. Frankie Montas, we signed him. Domingo Herman is still on the roster. So, decent things. Things are looking up if you're a Yankees fan. So hopefully you guys who don't like baseball haven't clicked off of this one by now. So we'll get into what we actually want to talk about today, which in my opinion is a fairly appropriately timed podcast episode. Which is going to be managing bodybuilding during the holidays. So I think that this is obviously really relevant at the moment. So the day that I'm recording this is December 17th of 2022. In case people watch this in the future, or somehow you've gone back in time and you're watching it at an earlier year. We're about a week out or so from Christmas, 2 weeks out or so from New Year's. And obviously, this video is not going to be on time for Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving has already passed. But, for us who live in the United States, because we celebrate Thanksgiving towards the end of November, usually like the Thanksgiving to New Year's time, that whole month is really kind of a very busy time in life. Obviously, spending time with friends, family, and social events and things like that. And that is obviously not the most optimal thing for bodybuilding purposes. So there are a lot of people who I feel like really struggle to manage bodybuilding during the holidays just because of all the madness that the holidays ensue. And I was definitely that way my first couple years of bodybuilding, as I've kind of done this more and more and kind of matured not only as a lifter but also as a person. I've really kind of changed a lot of my thought processes and stuff, and kind of gotten to the point now where the holidays for me are not really that big of a deal when it comes to bodybuilding. So in the sense of, if this is a time of the year where I have to kind of like scale back on things a little bit, or start to implore more flexibility within my bodybuilding, that is not a problem for me now. Where, in my earlier years of doing this, I really struggled with flexibility and being able to kind of manage things. And the holidays seemed like it was just kind of like a very stressful time for me unnecessarily, because the only thing that I can think about is, what am I eating and how many calories and when am I going to train, and oh my gosh, do like I have to take days off the gym, for this. So, I've really kind of matured, in my opinion, as an athlete and obviously as a person. As I have gone through this, and I kind of just want to share some of my thoughts and kind of give you guys some practical applications in terms of things that you guys can kind of keep in the back of your mind as we're going through this busy season, because amongst other things, I think it's really important to be able to not let the holidays be something that cause you tons of stress in terms of your bodybuilding life. I think that there are more important things to focus on. So we'll kind of talk about that. First, I kind of want to get into the itinerary. I'm sure you guys have noticed this by now, but it's clearly bath time for Zuki. So hopefully YouTube doesn't, like, I don't know, take this down or something. That would be really weird, but I don't know. Things can be kind of fruity nowadays. So anyways, we'll go ahead and we'll get into the itinerary, and I kind of just want to go over some of the things that we're going to be covering today. So first, I kind of want to remind you guys of the bigger picture and kind of help you guys put some things into perspective a little bit in terms of bodybuilding and the holidays. It's pretty common that I will get questions from your clients or people, questions on social media about like what are some ways that I can kind of set myself up to have a successful holiday season. So I kind of want to talk about that. And then I kind of want to give you guys some like practical applications and things that you guys can actually apply, both for training and for nutrition. And then I want to talk about how to best kind of get back on track after the holidays are over. So we'll go ahead and we'll just jump right into the first topic at hand. I kind of want to remind you guys of the bigger picture here. Especially when it comes to bodybuilding and the holidays and all of that type of stuff. So it's obviously no secret that the holiday season is a time that you usually are spending more time with friends and family than usual. At least in my experience, that's how it's always been. Obviously, some people are uh, most people have different living circumstances, so this is obviously going to be something that's individually dependent, but in my experience at least, the holidays are definitely a time where I spend a disproportionate amount more time with family than what I do throughout the rest of the year. And I think that's a really important thing to understand, because as cliche as this sounds, spending time with loved ones is not something that is abundant. Again, that individually dependent. Some of you guys are always seeing your family and whatnot, and nor is it guaranteed. So this is obviously another super cliche thing to say, and I don't want to turn into like a philosopher here on the podcast, but. Life in general is not guaranteed. I'm sure there's some of you guys who are listening to this podcast and maybe you haven't like ever experienced the loss of a loved one in your life, but it's kind of rare, I guess that you could say that would be the case. And so usually when that happens, like that kind of changes your perspective on things, and you kind of realize that life is not guaranteed. Again, I don't want to, turn this into like a philosophy show, but life is not guaranteed, and it is very important to really maximize the opportunities that you have with friends and family and loved ones, because that is obviously going to be something that is going to benefit your life and your character, and I guess overall quality of life more as a whole than bodybuilding can. And I just think it's really important that it's probably something that a lot of people have like heard before, but I think that that's really an important topic or an important piece to just kind of remind you guys with off the bat. I think it's another important thing to understand that a few days of off-plan eating will not outweigh the other, however many days. I put 361 days here of the year with good eating habits, and this is really like the way that I kind of think about this is almost like a math game in a certain sense. If we think about, let's take like the average person who doesn't work out or anything like that, and let's say that they eat on average 5 times per day. Maybe they have their 3 normal meals, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and then maybe they have like a snack between lunch and dinner, and then another snack before they go to bed. So let's say that they're eating 5 times per day. Over the course of the week, they're eating 35 times per week. Now, the average person, especially here in the United States, is not eating 35 times per week, and the majority of those choices are healthy food choices. The vast majority of those choices are people eating garbage. And so if you've got somebody who's eating 35 garbage meals per week, and then, on a Saturday night, they go out and they order a salad or like a grilled steak or grilled chicken with a baked potato, they eat something clean. It's pretty obvious to understand that that one time that they eat clean does not outweigh the other 34 dirty times during the week. And that's kind of the point that I'm trying to make when we take a look at the calendar year. I used the example of a week there, but I'm kind of relating this back to the course of a calendar year. If you're someone who is on your shit the majority of the year, taking a couple of days during the holidays, at the absolute most, we're maybe talking about 4 or 5 days, Thanksgiving Day, Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, New Year's Eve, and potentially New Year's Day. That really is not going to, and even if you have some more days that are like spread throughout the year. So maybe you do some shit on Halloween or Easter or whatever. This can be applied to any holiday really, because social events are part of the holidays. So even if you have 10 days out of the year where you just like completely go off track and go crazy, if you got 355 days of the year where you're on your shit, those 10 days are just like blips in the radar. It's just like a drop in the ocean. It really is irrelevant in the grand scheme of things. And that's another thing that I feel like it's really important to kind of remind you guys of, is to just, kind of keep the bigger picture in mind here. Like, what are your eating and training and nutrition habits during the other 11 months of the year? Like what does that look like? And I think that's a really important thing to understand. And if your training and nutrition are off on the other 11 months of the year, it's not the holidays that are causing you the stress of this. It's the fact that you're just not sticking to any sort of consistency or a plan. And that, that's a different problem that you got to fix. But you can't really like blame the holidays on that. And then, as much as we may, not want to admit it in certain instances within, the health and fitness committee or community, food is definitely part of the holiday experience. I mean, I'm sure you guys can all attest, like, there are, secret family recipes that, like, only get made for Christmas time, and that one aunt that, always makes those one cookies that are, like, super fucking good. Like, you guys know what I'm talking about. Like, food is absolutely part of the holiday experience. And so to not be able to partake in that, in my opinion, is kind of doing yourself a disservice, and you're kind of doing like injustice to the holiday. You know what I mean? Like, I understand that in certain instances, like during a contest prep, like you may be able to, or you may have to forego these things, and you may have to bring your Tupperware dinner and stuff to Easter dinner or whatever. But the vast majority of the people who are watching this video right now are probably not competitors or have aspirations of competing, and training and bodybuilding is just something that they do recreationally and as a hobby. So if you don't have financial things like on the line for sticking to your diet, which is another thing that we'll kind of talk about on the next slide here, shortchanging yourself from being able to experience that food is kind of doing yourself a disservice, in my opinion. There's some more things that I kind of want to remind you guys of, kind of keep you in the bigger picture, and I kind of hinted on this first one with the last post. The reality of the situation is that bodybuilding is not paying the bills for the vast majority of the listeners to this video. This may be something that people treat like a job, and they treat like a career, and they have the passion to potentially make a career one day. But the reality of the situation is that as it currently stands, bodybuilding is probably not paying any of your guys' bills. And if it is, I find it, pretty difficult to believe that you would be listening to my video. But maybe you're just interested. But that's a really, really, really important thing to understand, because in my opinion, the only people that really can justify being able to not partake in these holiday events and stuff like that are people whose career is on the line, in the sense, someone's prepping for the Olympia, or, whatever. You can imagine whatever scenario you want, but someone who, a fitness model who has to, be in shape for a shoot. I don't know, whatever situation you guys want to use. But the point that I'm trying to make is that bodybuilding is not making any money for any of you guys. And if anything, it's a huge financial suck of your money. And it is not something that is benefiting your life other than the fact that you simply love it. And by all fucking means, guys, like, I'm not judging or whatever. Obviously, like, I'm fortunate enough right now to make my living through bodybuilding, but it wasn't always this way. Like, I've did this for 6-7 years before I made any money through coaching or anything. So I've just been blessed, and I've just been fortunate to have found a niche I guess, crowd that likes to enjoy my content enough to the point where I have enough people that can help me pay my bills and support me and everything. But again, the reality of the situation is that is not the case for the vast majority of you guys. So I think it's really important just to kind of keep the bigger picture in mind here. Another thing that I think is really important to remind you guys is that if you're somebody who just bodybuilds recreationally and doesn't really have any intentions of competing or making any money or God forbid, making a career out of bodybuilding, bodybuilding is something that should be meant to enhance your life and make your quality of life better. If you have taken bodybuilding to the point where it is, taking away from your ability to enjoy the holidays and enjoy food with loved ones and enjoy grandma's, secret recipes, bodybuilding is not something that is enhancing your life. It's actually taking away from the quality of your life. And, there's probably going to be some people that will argue with me on that. But again, I'm just kind of trying to keep the bigger picture in mind here, guys. Like, if the stress of sticking to your diet or sticking to your training schedule is something that you are so clutched onto, and it's not something that is paying your bills, you really kind of need to find a way to have balance in your life and be able to manage all of those things. Because I don't want to tell anybody to not pursue their passion. That would be a ridiculous thing for me to say, especially as somebody who has pursued their passion and has been fortunate enough, as I said, to be able to make a living out of this. But if your passions are starting to negatively impact the quality of your life and are taking away from, the big picture moments, like, again, another like cliche thing, like when you're on your deathbed and you're thinking about, like, the most important, events, memories of your life. Again, unless you're a professional bodybuilder, it's pretty unlikely that bodybuilding is going to be in a lot of those thoughts. So again, just kind of really keeping things in perspective here. And then finally, just to kind of wrap up on this point, because I've been kind of harping on it for a while, because I think that's kind of the main thesis that I kind of want to get across, is just kind of keep the big picture in mind here. I think it's really important for you guys to weigh out your why and why it is that you do bodybuilding, and weigh out the pros and the cons. I have regularly said on my channel multiple times that bodybuilding is not for everybody. And there are a lot of people who get into bodybuilding for the wrong reasons. They get into bodybuilding for vain reasons, selfish, arrogant reasons that just don't actually benefit their life and make their life any better. And so, as much as you may love bodybuilding, if it's something, again, that is really, taking away from your life more than it's giving you back, you really need to weigh out your pros and cons and really need to weigh out whether this is something that you want to pursue at the intensity that you're doing it at. Like I said, I don't want to tell you to quit, because I don't like seeing people quit. But if you're doing it for the wrong reasons and you're kind of, again, like struggling to balance normal everyday life with it, you need to weigh out your pros and cons, and you really kind of need to weigh out why it is that you do that. Okay, so the next point that I want to bring up is the whole setting yourself up thing. So this is kind of a common question that I'll get from clients or I'll get from comments or DMs on social media, where people will say, "Hey, I'm going out for Christmas dinner tomorrow. Should I eat less today or do more cardio the day after or something, so that the negative repercussions of having that off plan meal are shortchanged and removed?" And that's kind of what I want to talk about, is what is the best way to set yourself up for the holidays. And drum roll, you don't set yourself up for the holidays. You just try to be as close to your plan as you possibly can, all the way up until the holidays, and then you take the holiday as a holiday, And then when the holidays are over, you just get right back on plan. And I'll obviously talk about that like when we get towards the end of the podcast episode. But I think that it's really important that you don't try to like set yourself up to have a productive holiday season, because what you're doing is you're psychologically fucking with yourself. You are negatively associating the holidays with food and weight gain, which just reinforces that habit. If when you think of the holidays, if one of the first things that comes to your mind is, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to eat like off my diet, and I'm gonna gain tons of weight, and I'm gonna get fat from overeating, you are negatively associating the holidays with food and weight gain. And as I just kind of ranted about for 15-ish minutes, 20 minutes, there are way, way, way more important and way, way, way more positive things that are happening during the holidays than just maybe gaining a pound or two. Way, way, way more important things. And I won't harp on those because I just spent 15, 20 minutes doing it. But you guys understand the point that I'm trying to make here. Like, I think that it's really important that we don't kind of like associate the holidays as something as negative simply because of the fact that we're going to be eating food that isn't on our diet. Just because we're eating food that isn't on our diet and we're taking a couple of days out of the gym, or we're not following a structured diet and not tracking all of our macros for a couple of days, that doesn't mean that the holidays are a bad time, and that doesn't mean that they have to be something that you have to associate as negative. You have the choice with what you choose to focus on. Another corny cliche, you know, I'm full of them. I said I don't want this episode to turn into like a philosophy episode, but it kind of sounds like it has. You know, with every situation that you're presented, you have the choice of do you want to focus on the positives or do you want to focus on the negatives, and that starts here. That starts in your brain. So negatively associating the holidays with food and weight gain is just something that I don't like to do. I don't feel the need to kind of like prepare or punish somebody just because they're going to be partaking in some off-plan meals during the holidays. I think that just kind of reinforces the habit, and it just kind of creates this endless loop, and it kind of just messes with your relationship with the whole process, and I just don't think that it's productive for anybody. So I want to go ahead and start to get into some of the practical applications, like what are some of the things that you guys can take from this and actually apply as you go into this holiday season. So we're going to start with training. So the first thing that I kind of want to talk about is don't be afraid to adjust your schedule to free up time. And this is something that I have done almost every year in the holidays for the past couple of years, is I have adjusted my training split. Normally during my training split, I will either usually have one or two workouts during the week that will fall on weekend days like Saturdays or Sundays. And typically what I like to do, over the course of the holidays is adjust my split so that I'm still getting the same amount of workload in over the course of the week, but I free up my weekend time, so that if something were to come up and I need to be available for a weekend or go somewhere or stay somewhere, my training is not affected by that, because at the moment I'm only training 4 days per week. I typically will train Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, and then the fourth session will either be on Friday or Saturday, depending on how I'm feeling. But when I start to get into the holiday season, I adjust my split to be Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and I use Saturday, Sunday, and Wednesday as my rest days. So that would still allow me to get my 4 total training sessions in for the week and kind of tick all the boxes that I need to do from a training program perspective, but it frees up my weekend time. So if I'm going to go home to my parents' house, or we're going to go away for a weekend with some friends, it allows me to do that and still do everything that I need to do in the gym for that week. So don't be afraid to get flexible. And also don't be afraid to do 50% volume workouts if time is limited. So, let's say you've got work and then you only have, I don't know, an hour and a half until you got to be somewhere, and you want to train, but you just don't have time to get a full workout in. Don't be afraid to do 50% volume workouts. Cut your volume in half, keep the intensity as high as you can possibly keep it. And just because you're cutting your volume back doesn't mean that you're going to be having a good workout. Going in the gym and doing a workout at 50% stimulus or 50% total volume, but progressing all of those lifts and progressing all of those sets is still going to be a great stimulus for hypertrophy. I think, again, this is another topic for a different day, but I think that we've kind of gotten this associated in our head. A lot of the people in the industry have, how much work do I do in this workout dictates whether or not this was a good workout. And that definitely is one piece of the puzzle. But overall, the thing that should dictate whether or not you've had a good workout is, did you progress your lifts? And so if you have to, cut back the volume by half and cut your workload in half so that you can still go in the gym, kick ass, and then be able to be to your dinner or whatever that night and be able to balance everything within your life, then that's what you got to do. And that's better than skipping the workout altogether or trying to go to the gym and doing a really stressed out, rushed workout because you're trying to cram a normal workout into less time so that you can make it to your dinner or whatever and not be late. So don't be afraid to do that. I think that's something that a lot of people are typically afraid of doing, not only during the holidays, but just year round. Like, people are afraid of doing less work. They have a negative association with that. And then also, don't be afraid to be flexible with your training times. So this is something that a lot of us who kind of have set schedules in terms of like work, a lot of you guys will probably have like gotten into the habit of like training at a specific time every day. And if for whatever reason you have to train earlier or later than that, that can be something that can cause a lot of mental and emotional stress for you. But two things I really want to focus on here. One, if you have the option of either not being able to train today because you can't train at the perfect time, or you can train, you just got to go at a different time, choosing to go is always going to be better than skipping the session. And two, I think a very important skill that all bodybuilders should have is the ability to be flexible with their training time, because life happens at times, and sometimes you're not able to train at your preferred time, and sometimes you're not able to train at your preferred time for an extended period of time, weeks or months at a time. And if that's the case, you don't have the option to just be like, well, I can't train at the time that I want to, so I'm not going to train. Like, you have to be able to be flexible, and you need to be able to get it in when you can get it in, and make it fucking happen. So don't be afraid to be flexible with your training times. Obviously, like, you're going to be reluctant to do it, but force yourself to go to the gym, force yourself to go to the workout, through the workout. And I'm telling you guys, like, the more that you make yourself do that, the more that you'll get comfortable, and the more that you'll be flexible. I could train at 8 a.m., I could train at noon, I could train at 4 p.m. I typically don't want to train any later, start training any later than about 4 p.m. because I find that it impacts my sleep. But if I had to go to the gym at 6, 7, 8 o'clock at night, and that was the only time that I could make it happen for whatever reason, I would fucking make it happen. Now, obviously, I'm self-employed, and I have the blessing and the ability to set my schedule up how I want to. So in most instances, that wouldn't happen. But if it were to happen, I gotta fucking make it happen. So don't be afraid to do that either, guys. Like, things are not always going to be perfect. You need to be able to be flexible. That's a skill that all athletes need to have. All bodybuilders need to have that skill. Let's talk about some practical applications for your nutrition. So similarly to what I talked about with the training, don't be afraid to be flexible if you aren't currently. And this is something that I have really done with myself. So when I first started bodybuilding and I first started training, I was 100% on a flexible dieting approach. I used MyFitnessPal every day. I woke up, I used MyFitnessPal every day. I woke up every day and I had no idea what it was that I was going to eat, and I just kind of went along with it as I went. And then as time went on, I kind of graduated to more of like a strict meal plan approach, where I had a meal plan and I only ate what was on that meal plan, and I didn't have a whole lot of flexibility and a whole lot of variety. And where it currently stands right now is I kind of have a mixture of both. So I would say throughout my typical life, like Monday through Friday, I follow a meal plan just because I'm busy work week for me. And then on the weekends, my girlfriend doesn't work on the weekends, and so usually on the weekends we do things. And so I find it important to be more flexible. So I can have some of my regularly programmed meals, but I also know what my macros are. So if we decide to go out and and get some food for dinner, that's not a problem. I can fit that within my macros. So, some of you guys are really, really flexible and you use MyFitnessPal all the time. Some of you guys are not flexible at all, and these are really the people that I'm kind of referring to. So if you're someone who's like really, really, really strict on a meal plan, I would at least challenge you to at least know the macros of each one of your meals. So like know that meal 5 is 75 carb, 10 fat, 40 protein, so that if you do happen to eat out, you can at least compare what it is that you're eating out to what a normal meal is for you macro wise, and you can try to match macros as best as you can. But if you're someone who's currently not exercising any level of flexibility, that would be something that I would get to working on. Get more flexible. Also, don't be afraid to bank calories for later in the day and eating out meals. And I need to be careful with this one because some people will abuse this and they'll just like eat hardly anything all day and then they'll just want to stuff their face at the end of the day. That is not what I'm recommending that you do. What I'm recommending is that if you have an instance where, like, say you're going to go to a work party or a, whatever, and you know there's going to be a good amount of food there and you want to partake in that, don't be afraid to cut back the size of some of your earlier meals so that you kind of bank more calories for later in the day, so that when you do indulge in the stuff that you want to indulge on, it doesn't negatively impact you as much. Again, I need to be very careful about how I say that because some people will abuse the shit out of that, and that's not what I'm talking about here. I want to make that very clear. Eat appropriately. So I wrote here, don't eat like a 5-year-old. This is something that I always say. I mean, everyone listening to this video has some little kid or a couple little kids in their family who they sit down at family events and they take like one bite of their meat and like one bite of their vegetables, and then they just like spend the whole time at the dessert table eating brownies and shit. Don't eat like a 5-year-old. The desserts are there, and the desserts should be enjoyed, but they should not be your primary food group that you're eating over the course of the holidays. If that's the case, you have a real relationship with food issue that you need to get addressed. Sitting at Christmas dinner, stuffing your face with cookies is not only is it not a good look, it's not helping you from a bodybuilding or health perspective at all. So don't eat like a 5-year-old. When it comes to the foods that you're actually eating, I would prioritize your proteins and vegetables and your clean carbohydrates over your sweets and your fat sources. So, when you go to Thanksgiving dinner, prioritizing getting a lot of turkey and maybe some vegetables on your plate. Now, not like deep fried vegetable casserole, but, if someone in your family is making like corn or whatever, every family's different. If you've got some vegetables there, like prioritize those things. Prioritize cleaner carbohydrates like potato and rice if you guys make those, and breads. Obviously be careful of like the butter and all of that stuff on the breads, but at the same time, like use those things, enjoy those things, but the priority that you should be focusing on when you're eating your meals is choosing large amounts of protein and vegetables preferably, and then again make sure that you have sweets, but eat your sweets and stuff at the end, so you're less likely to kind of over indulge in them, and try to set yourself like some sort of limit, like I'm gonna have 2 or 3 cookies at max, and that's it, and then kind of move on from there. If you have a hard time holding yourself accountable to that, you need to work on that. So, and then finally, limit alcohol consumption. So this is something that most people in the fitness industry are obviously pretty aware of in general, like especially people who are into bodybuilding. It's pretty rare that I find lots of bodybuilders, particularly decent bodybuilders, that drink on a regular basis. And at the same time, I want, in moderation, alcohol is perfectly fine. There's no issues with it. I drink in moderation throughout the year. There will be multiple times through the year where I will drink and get a fairly good like buzz or drunk going. I never get like piss hammer drunk, but definitely get a good buzz and feel pretty tipsy. and don't be afraid to do that. But at the same time, like binge drinking and drinking a whole 30 case of beer by yourself is going to do absolutely nothing positive for bodybuilding. And I think it's really important that you guys kind of keep a perspective on that. So, kind of you can lump alcohol kind of in the same boat as the sweets. Like it's perfectly fine to have that stuff, but have it in moderation. Kind of going back to the previous podcast episode when I was talking about training volume and how training volume kind of affects fatigue and how you need to deload. The devil is in the dose, and it's not necessarily the thing that you're consuming that is an issue unless it's consumed in a mass quantity, and then it obviously becomes an issue. Most things that are unhealthy for you, aside from like obvious like super hard drugs and shit, most things that are bad for you on paper don't really have any effect on you if they're used sparingly and in moderation. So just keep that in mind. Finally, last thing I want to talk about is I kind of want to talk about how to get back on track after the holidays. So, this is about as straightforward and blunt as I can put it, but unfortunately, I don't really know any way else to put it. Just simply get back on your plan. Like once the holidays are over, just get right back on your training program, get right back on your diet, and don't worry about anything. Don't let a few days of off plan turn into a few weeks of off plan. So just again, limit the amount of time that you're going to be in this non-optimal state for bodybuilding. Try to be as perfect as you can leading up to the holidays, and then as soon as the holidays are over, then just try to get right back on plan immediately. I wish I had a sexier answer for you, but unfortunately I don't. As I kind of talked about earlier, we have the choice in what it is that we kind of want to focus on. Choose to focus on the positives instead of focusing on the guilt that you may experience. Again, going back to the one of the earlier points that I made, if you're experiencing guilt and then you feel the need to like make up for that guilt, you're just going to create this vicious, endless cycle that never ends. And if you haven't seen my video on binge eating disorder, I suggest you check that one out, because that really is kind of one of the major root causes of binge eating disorder. Is people will binge eat and then they'll feel the need to make up for the fact that they binge ate, and it just becomes this binge restrict cycle. And so if you feel the need to punish yourself for partaking in something that normal human beings partake in, that can really kind of create this negative feedback loop that you do not want to find yourself in. And instead just choose to focus on the positives and think about all the good times that you had with friends and family, and all the good conversations, and all the memories and stuff that you guys made. That's way more important. If I go into the holiday season and I finish the holiday season and because I overate, I gained an extra like 2 or 3 pounds this month, I would happily take an additional 2 to 3 pounds of body fat if it meant that I got to make good memories with my friends and family. So again, kind of going back to the first point, keeping the big picture in mind, just choose to focus on the positive things, that the positive outcomes from the holidays instead of the guilt and stuff that you may feel. And then finally, this can just be a blip in the radar and a drop in the ocean at the end of the day, kind of going back to what I said with the earlier point about if you eat one clean meal a week, it does not outweigh the 34 bad ones. If you are on your plan 355 days of the year and you just have 10 days out of the year or however many, I mean, even if you're off like, I don't know, man, even if you're off 20 days of the year, like 345 good days of bodybuilding far outweighs 20 days of bad bodybuilding. So just get right back on track, and if you just get back on track and you're perfect leading up to the holidays and then you're perfect after the holidays aren't going to mean shit for you. It's going to be largely irrelevant in the grand scheme of things. Okay, guys, so that is about it. Again, if you guys have any questions or anything, please feel free to leave them in the comment section. Send me a DM, send me a comment, whatever. Just let me know, and I will happily answer your guys' questions. As usual, if you guys have any suggestions for future episodes and stuff like this, any topics that you guys want me to cover in detail like this, please let me know. And I'm obviously open to all considerations. And then if any of you guys are interested in online coaching or a consultation or a training program or something like that, please head over to my website. It's btbtraining.net, B as in boy, T as in Tom, B as in boy, training.net/services to see all of the services that I offer. So again, guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you guys can take these tips and apply them and have a fruitful and beneficial holiday season. Again, the holidays are supposed to be an awesome time spent with friends and family. And unfortunately, the very nature of bodybuilding means that the holidays can kind of naturally create some stress for a lot of people. So I feel a very important need to make this video just to kind of give you guys some practical advice that can actually help you kind of mentally get through this time and really be able to focus on the things that really matter. So again, guys, any questions, let me know. If you're interested in coaching, head to my website. Other guys, I will talk to you guys next time. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, take care of yourselves. Have a happy holidays, everyone. Thank you.